Joining us now, a good friend of the program, our good friend Patrick J. Buchanan, one of the best writers in the country, and he's been there through the Nixon administration, the Reagan administration. He's been in all the political wars, really pushing for a pro-blue-collar Republican Party for many, many years on issues of trade and non-interventionism and other issues. Anyway, his brand new book, Nixon's White House Wars, The Battles That Made and Broke a President and Divided America Forever. You know, Pat, as I look at your new book and through the prism of where we are with President Trump and unhinged conspiracy theories, and even Sally Yates there, you know, ignoring what is the elephant in the room, the surveillance, unmasking, and leaking of intelligence, which is illegal. It seems that we are as divided more even now than then.
You know, I think it's quite true. And, Nixon ended badly, but when he came in, he faced the same situation that Donald Trump did. The relentless hostility of the media, the opposition of the deep state in D.C. and what he was trying to do. And what you're talking about here, I think, is very important. There's two alleged scandals here. One is, did the Trump administration collude with Russia to interfere and get all those emails out and damage Hillary Clinton? Every single intelligence person and FBI chief who has been up there for the last 10 months has said, no, we have no evidence of that. And the press is pursuing that, meanwhile ignoring what is going on, which is the deep state leaks to damage Trump, falsely in some cases, and they're not pursuing the unmasking of individuals. And was the Trump campaign really basically not wiretapped, but surveyed in various ways, and were individuals unmasked, and why, and who did it? And so that's the second scandal, it seems to me. And the first looks like thus far a very dry hole.
Well, Pat, look at what we advanced last night. And if you want to look at an absolute number, that the unmasking requests granted by the NSA from 2015 to 2016, you go from 650 to 2,200. Now, either we had the single greatest increase in terrorist activity and potential threat to this country, which would authorize legitimate surveillance, or we have, in an election year, an opposition party being surveilled for political purposes, which, if we're going to talk about Nixon and controversies, this would make Watergate look like, a kindergarten class versus, a law school LSAT exam or something.
Well, you're exactly correct here. Look, the Nixon thing was about 5 guys broke into the National Committee. Nixon didn't order it. It was done by his campaign. He did try to save those guys. But if this is true, if there has been a systematic effort to deliberately unmask individuals who made conversations with Russians or any connection with them in order to get the goods on them and defeat the opposition here, that is a far more serious, graver matter. What astounds me, Sean, is why we cannot get to the bottom of exactly who was unmasked, who made the orders, where the materials went, who wrote up the transcripts, who leaked them to the press. Leaks to the press like that are crimes in and of themselves.
Well, I agree. I mean, all of this is a crime. We never seem to get to the bottom of anything, Pat.
I don't Hillary. Trump has the government now. Can you call these people in and say, what did the National Security Advisor, the lady working for Barack Obama, what did she get? What did she do? She's not going to testify now. I mean, there's
Susan Rice.
An election of duty here.
Well, you're talking about Susan Rice. Look, to me, there is no rational explanation to see exponentially this dramatic an increase of surveillance and unmasking in an election year. The only intelligent conclusion we can make is that the NSA, our surveillance community, was being used as a mechanism to spy on political opposition. If that is true, and I am right, and I suspect you agree with me, how do we, get to the bottom of it? What is the magnitude of scandal we're talking about?
Well, look, here's what you do. You've got to get the head of the top end. You got to get Clapper in there. in the room. Then you get the CIA guy, previous guy, Brennan, and then you get them in there, get them all in
Ben
there.
Rhodes, Susan Rice.
Closed session. Get them all in there in closed sessions. So, okay, we want the names, and we want everything you did, and do it in closed sessions, and the Senate and the House get that material from these folks and say, okay, what's your explanation for it? And then you're going to, if that's the case, then you're going to have a report on that and say what they did and whether this was illegal.
Well, Pat, we already know what happened to General Flynn was illegal. We already, but here's my problem, and help me out, because, look, you're talking about the battles that made and broke a president and divided America forever. Okay, we're now, in many ways, I would argue, based on your book, we're reliving history. How does Hillary get away with a private server in a mom-and-pop shop, in a bathroom closet, with not only top secret emails, but special access intelligence, which is the highest level of intelligence? How is it the Clinton Foundation gives away 20% of America's uranium, and the Clinton Foundation, with all the people involved, gets millions and millions of dollars vis-a-vis the Clinton Foundation, doubling of speech fees of Bill Clinton in Moscow, and that the media focuses only in on a conspiracy of collusion that we don't have a shred of evidence after investigations have gone on for nearly a year?
Here's how we do it. Comey first has all the goods sufficient to recommend an indictment. He can't indict. He sends to the Justice Department, whose chief, Ms. Flynn, says, I'm going to follow what Mr. Comey says. He sends to the Justice Department really hard evidence, which was sufficient, a number of people said, to indict. Comey did that, I think, because he didn't want to decide the election. So that happens, and then and so there's no indictment of Hillary. And then, frankly, after the election is over, the Trump administration was ordered, the Trump Justice Department was told not to pursue the Hillary matter.
Well, that's the point. We never follow through, Pat. The only people that we get follow through on are conservatives or Republicans. Yeah. Republicans, one of the reasons I wanted to get rid of the supermajority or cloture or what we call the nuclear option is because Republicans, they play by one set of rules. Ruth Bader Ginsburg will get an up or down vote. Elena Kagan will get an up or down vote. Sonia Sotomayor, any liberal on the court gets an up or down vote. Then the same reciprocity, the same courtesy is not extended to Republicans. So why?
About it. I was in the battles of Haynesworth and Carswell were torn to pieces.
Exactly.
Back there in those days. But here's something else. Now, Sean, let's take the one item that you and I agree on. It is a crime to do. Look, I don't agree with what General Flynn did, but it is a crime to leak this fact out from the Justice Department about the talks with the Vice President, et cetera, to the Washington Post. Get Comey in there and ask him publicly, now, are you investigating the leak, which is apparently out of the FBI, but in any event is criminal misconduct? Have you investigated and run down the FBI agent or agents or whoever it was that made this leak, which appears to be out of your department, and fired them, or what have you done? Give us the name, because we think that's an indictable crime. And if you can't give us the name, we're going to get a new FBI director who will.
All right, Pat Buchanan is with us. He's got a brand new book out, and if you think history repeats itself, well, it does, and it gives you a very, very broad perspective that a lot of what we've been through in the past is happening again on steroids, and his new book is called Nixon's White House Wars, the battles that made and broke a president and divided America forever. All right, as we continue, Patrick J. Buchanan is with us. His brand new book, Nixon's White House Wars, the battles that made and broke a president, divided America forever. Destined to be another Pat Buchanan bestseller. But what you're writing about in this book, and I really had a hard time putting it down last night until I literally passed out with it on my chest, is this book is so relevant, and you can really see that history does repeat itself, and it seems to be repeating itself even at a higher level now. How would you tie the two together?
Well, here's the thing, Sean. What happened, the American establishment, which basically ruled the country from the New Deal up into the 1960s into JFK, broke apart and was broken on the wheel of Vietnam. However, and so Nixon broke through and won with 43% in 68, and then won again with 72 with 49 states. However, the establishment is ensconced deeply into the government in D.C. Trump got 4% of the vote in D.C., which tells you how much support he's got in the bureaucracy, the media, the complete establishment, the intellectual academic establishment. And what they do is they're waiting there. And you cannot make any footfault. You slip and fall there, and they will run the sword right through you. And they are as ready to break and bring down President Trump as they were to break and bring down Nixon. Now, I'm not defending the blunders and mistakes Nixon made after that stupid break-in, and they were used to bring him down. But they will not bring down their allies and friends. They wouldn't do this to Jack Kennedy. They wouldn't do this to Barack Obama. But I'll tell you, the president better be prepared and realize that, if they make a mistake, it's going to be big. It's going to be constant. Look, General Flynn has been gone for 3 months. For heaven's sakes, I don't know about you. I didn't learn anything new yesterday from that report by those two. And there were some of the good questions. Who leaked this that went unanswered, and we learned nothing about those. And we learned the same thing about the talk with the vice president and when he learned it and how many hours and days it was before he was removed. He's been gone for 3 months. Today we got an important issue, hugely important, on Afghanistan. Are we going to go back in there with how many troops? Can we win it? Is it lost? A gigantic issue. But the media, they will stay focused, Sean. They will keep zeroed in, laser-like on anything that is damaging, and they'll keep it up and up. And look, it's been almost a year. Has there been any collusion? Every guy comes on TV. No, we haven't found any collusion. If there's collusion, for heaven's sakes, they should have found it in the first week.
Yeah, well, they should have found it in the first week. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. The fact that they delay all of this the way they do is unbelievable and, frankly, unforgivable to me. I've got to believe that based on some of the recent news that you're pretty happy on a foreign policy front. I'm looking at the news cycle earlier today, and, we see that the president, I think, has taken a very Pat Buchanan-like position, and that is he's arming the Kurds.
Well, yeah, the Kurds are great, but let me say this, Sean. Nixon faced a similar situation. We came in with 525,000 guys still in Vietnam. And Nixon realized that the country wanted him to pull out. It didn't want to lose the war, and it's a hellish problem to do that and succeed. And he did by 72, and it wasn't until 75 that after he had been broken and driven from office, that the North Vietnamese came down from the north. But I will say this. We've got guys all over the Middle East. We got them in Iraq. We got them in Afghanistan. We are aiding the Saudis in Yemen. We got folks in Somalia. We are in all over these Syria even. And I think Trump doesn't think we should have gone in, and neither do I. But once you are in there,
you got to win.
Well, you got to win, but you can't. Sean, we had 100,000 guys or something in Afghanistan, and we didn't make it. 10,000 aren't going to do it.
No, I agree. But you know what? These countries also have to start fighting for themselves. And
that's the Nixon doctrine he put out in Asia that will help them to the degree
I got to run.
we can.
Yeah, to the degree we can is right. But listen, it's very complicated. We'll talk about that in the future. The book is awesome, by the way. Our friend Pat Buchanan, Nixon's White House Wars, the battles that made and broke a president and divided America forever. And you'll see so many parallels to where we are today, and you'll get a great background and knowledge of history. Thanks, Pat.